Solubility and electrolyte practice. Okay, you need two things to do this. You need an ion chart and your solubility chart. Okay, so if you don't have either one of those, go get them. All right, first, we're going to write the chemical formula using our ion chart. So let's go to compound number 1, sodium chloride. So what's the chemical formula for sodium chloride? Okay, bringing it back to first semester stuff here. Okay, sodium. Let's find him on our ion chart. He's here. He has a charge of +1, so I'm going to write that out here. I've got the +1 sodium, and he is going to bond with chlorine, which becomes chloride when it's an ion, and he has a -1 charge. So I'm going to have Cl -1. Okay, so what happens when I have a +1 and a -1 charge? They cancel out, and so my chemical formula is 1 sodium to 1 chlorine. All right, let's look at another one before we move on. Okay, so I've got magnesium. And again, get your ion chart. Where's Mr. Magnesium? Here he is. He's a +2. All right, so I'm going to write that here. Magnesium +2. And then he's with hydroxide. And I know it's an IDE ending, but remember this guy's hidden up here. That whole thing has a charge of -1. So he's a polyatomic with a charge of -1, because I just want to remind you how to write formulas when you have different charges, okay? It's not a +2 and -2, so they don't cancel out. So what do we need to do? We need to swap the numbers down, drop the sign. So this says, for every 1 magnesium, I need 2 hydroxide. Why is that? Because this is a +2, so I need 2 of these -1s to cancel it out. That's why it's 1 magnesium, 2 hydroxide. Okay, so you need to write all your chemical formulas. All right, if you're having trouble with that, let me know. Let's move on to solubility. We're going to use our solubility chart and determine if each compound is soluble or insoluble in water. You have done this before. So like for sodium and chlorine, positive ions are on the top. Here's Mr. Sodium, Miss Chlorine. When they bond, it says right here they are soluble. So I'm going to put an S there for soluble in water. If it's soluble in water, what does that mean? That it dissolves in water to make an aqueous solution. So that means that the water pulls apart these sodium and chlorine ions. So it will form ions. These are the same ions you looked up to write this formula. Okay? How do I know if it's an electrolyte? Well, if it's soluble and forms ions, then it will conduct electricity in solution. So here I know it's an electrolyte because it formed these ions. All right, let's look at the other one we did. We've got magnesium with hydroxide. So let's find, here's Mr. Magnesium, here's hydroxide. I'm going to come across, come down, and it says this compound is insoluble in water. So I'm going to write an I for insoluble. So what does that mean? If it is insoluble, I'm going to write none. Why is that? Because it will not dissolve in water. So it will not break into ions. So there are no ions. Therefore, if there are no ions, then it is a non-electrolyte. It will not conduct electricity in solution. Okay? So my suggestion is write your chemical formulas, check with me to see if they're good, and then you can complete these other items here. All right? Let me know if you have any questions.